Everybody set? Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for being here today. I'm joined today by State Fire Marshal Kevin Reardon, Director Sherry Maxfield of the Ohio Department of Commerce, Holmes Township Trustee Ron Miller of Crawford County, as well as Chief John Finley of the Malta and McConnellsville Volunteer Fire Department and Chair of the Ohio State Fire Council. I think before, though, we get started, we should have a moment of silence to pay our respects to Fire Lieutenant Philip W. Weigel of the Town and Country Fire District in West Salem. Thank you. As you all know, he was tragically struck and killed on Monday while working at the scene of an accident on I-71 in Wayne County. Lieutenant's death is a reminder of the danger that is faced by our men and women who work in our fire departments every single day. Our prayers are with his family and all those who love him. In this museum, surrounded by reminders of the past and present of firefighting, we're here to discuss the future, particularly the formation of a new task force that I am announcing today to examine volunteer fire services in the state of Ohio. A good, reliable fire service is essential to the health and safety of any community. Well-trained, well-equipped professionals provide a high level of service to the community and save lives and property in case of an emergency. None of us ever know when we're going to be in the need of such services, but we all want to be sure that when we do need them, they're there, that they're fast, that they are efficient. Fran and I live in Cedarville Township in Greene County. If something happens in our house in Cedarville Township, it's the Cedarville Volunteer Fire Department that is there. And we've had more than one occasion over the years for them to respond. When I was in the United States Senate, I was the lead Republican sponsor of the Firefighter Investment and Response Enhancement, or better known as the FIRE Act. The FIRE Act created the Assistance to Firefighters Grant Program. Since 2000, when the bill was passed, that program has provided more than $9.2 billion to fire departments nationwide. After that bill was passed, Fran and I had the occasion to travel around Ohio and to visit many volunteer fire departments, dozens of them, and to see and the men and women who do the great work of our fire service. Fire service costs and responsibilities, though, continue to increase, as do the number of calls, all of which are putting a strain on our departments. And of course, the majority of calls are EMS. We rely today on our fire service and the men and women who respond for all kinds of emergencies that may occur in our families and with our families. As I travel the state, as Fran and I travel the state, we talk to township trustees, we talk to members of volunteer fire departments, we talk to county commissioners who tell us about the changing nature of volunteer fire departments and tell us about many of the challenges that today are faced by these departments. These challenges certainly include funding, training, recruitment, and equipment. To give you kind of an overview of the big picture, Ohio has over 1,000 fire departments, 1,180 fire departments, 605, a little more than half of which are solely volunteer services. And up to 70% rely on volunteers in some capacity. So we have some hybrid, we have totally volunteer, and then we have the others as well. Some departments are entirely volunteer and unpaid, while others provide some form of compensation, such as payment per call. Many communities, in fact, communities in 86 counties, rely on volunteers who work other jobs outside of public service, but respond to emergencies as needed. These are skilled, hardworking volunteers who are highly valued in their communities. We appreciate everything that they do each and every day to protect us. Unfortunately, these volunteer services are seeing changing times. Many of these volunteer service departments are in jeopardy. Many volunteers are aging and are leaving the force. Departments are experiencing a shortage of their replacements. Higher equipment and other costs and declining financial resources are straining volunteer services budgets beyond what existing levies, fish fries, spaghetti dinners, or in Cedarville, pancake breakfasts can cover. Training costs and scheduling create obstacles for departments and volunteers who are often working other jobs and also have families. So we need to look at these challenges and come up with fresh solutions. I asked Fire Marshal Kevin Reardon to assemble what we're calling the Ohio Task Force on Volunteer Fire Service, the Ohio Task Force on Volunteer Fire Service, to examine these issues and to examine the state of fire services throughout Ohio and to provide recommendations so that we can ensure the continuation of reliable emergency coverage for our communities. So today we're announcing the formation of this task force. And I will be in the near future visiting some of our volunteer fire departments around the state to hear even more firsthand from the volunteers and from the elected officials. Let me now turn to Fire Marshal Kevin Reardon, who will tell us more about the situation and the task force. Kevin?
Thank you, Governor DeWine. I appreciate your attention to this important issue facing communities throughout the state of Ohio. The volunteer fire service is in crisis. I hear the struggles time and time again as I travel throughout the state. Just like the governor said, equipment costs, staffing issues, and declining financial resources for a lot of these fire departments. They're creating a stress that has never been seen in the volunteer sector before. We reached a point where it's some areas of the state, fire levies are failing. We're not used to that. That's something that seldom happens in Ohio. Here in Ohio, roughly 70% of the fire departments that we are responsible for at the Marshal's office are volunteer fire departments. So there are literally millions of Ohioans that depend upon the volunteer fire service to be there when they call 911. As a career firefighter, I know the fire service is very deeply rooted in tradition, but the challenges of today can only be addressed through forward thinking and some innovative solutions. There is no single greatest issue in the volunteer service right now. There are many. There are many issues, and together they are creating stresses that are very difficult for some departments to deal with. This is not only an Ohio issue, this is a nationwide issue. But Ohio can and will be a leader in finding some solutions to some of the problems within the volunteer fire sector. We are looking forward to the task force identifying those issues, looking at them in depth, and coming up with some solutions to how we can make the situation better so that we can secure this valuable service for future generations of Ohioans. I want to thank you, Governor DeWine, for your leadership and your commitment to the fire service. And I also thank the task force members. We're looking forward to working with you as we start down this road. Thank you again, Governor.
Kevin, we have other speakers, so.
Yes, at this time I'd like to invite the chair of the State Fire Council to come forward, Chief John Finley.
Thank you, Marshal, and thank you, Governor. It's an honor to serve the state of Ohio on this task force, and it's wonderful that you have recognized the fact that we need so much help in the volunteer fire service. I am from a very small community, Malta and McConnellsville, and it's one of the smallest communities in the state of Ohio as far as county-wise population. So it's an honor to serve you here today and honor to serve on this task force. I can assure you that I will listen to volunteers across the state and do everything I can to help and assist in this task we have before us. It is critical as the volunteer fire service is quickly dying on the vine. And if we don't save it, we will lose it completely. And communities cannot afford a paid fire service in every small community across the state. So at times, there's people that goes without the help. I've served in my community for 40+ years, and I've never seen as critical a time as we are now for the lack of volunteerism in the community. So we're hoping to take this information forward and do great things with this task force and really help the volunteer fire service in Ohio. So thank you all for your support as well.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right. Happy to take any questions.
You mentioned this.
We have a lot of expertise behind me, so.
You mentioned this isn't an Ohio-specific problem. Are there best practices or kind of things that other states
Well,
are doing?
one of the things, I'll let anyone jump in here, but one of the things that I'm challenging this group to do, and we've already started talking about, is frankly just to see what other states are doing. One of the glories of our 50 laboratories of democracy, so we can see what other states are doing, but they do have certainly these challenges. So I've asked the commission to take a look at that. Anyone else want to talk about that?
Good morning. I'm Ron Miller, a trustee in Crawford County and Holmes Township. I want to thank Governor DeWine and his team for convening the Ohio Task Force on Volunteer Firefighters. Volunteerism is an issue of vital importance to Ohio townships. Many townships still utilize volunteer first responders because it's the only way to keep fire and EMS services operational. According to the National Fire Protection Association, 67% of firefighters nationwide are volunteers. It is very similar in Ohio in your statements. 95% of those individuals serve communities of 25,000 people or less, but nearly half of all volunteer firefighters protect small rural communities with less than 2,500 people. These individuals are providing an essential service nationwide in our townships here in Ohio. However, the number of volunteers is declining each year and could lead to a real crisis in provision of safety services, particularly in rural areas. In many cases, these are life-saving services that our communities cannot go without but can't otherwise afford. I've served as a township trustee for 27 years in Holmes Township and as a volunteer fireman for 20 years. I'm an officer on the OTA board, and again, on behalf of myself and the OTA, we want to thank you for your leadership on this issue. And I'd like to personally invite you up to the Holmes Township Volunteer Fire Department for a tour and meet with our firemen. Fran can bring a couple pies and we'll have a good time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Anything else? Anyone else want to comment about what other states are doing? Again, that's one of the things that we are going to look at on the task force. Okay. Other questions?